Welcome to the Chicago Bulls Charge. I am Pence, and it's a big day. The NBA started back last night. The Chicago Bulls play their first regular season game of the season here tonight against the Thunder. And I thought this would be a good time just to kind of check in and just share the things that I'm looking for this season as the Bulls get started. And I got three main things. The first thing is it going to be the same old from the Chicago Bulls? We've watched them. This is year three of the mid three of Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. They don't play particularly well together. They don't seem like they fit together. And I think it's not so much a problem offensively, but defensively is where we see the struggles. DeRozan and Levine are, passable. They're fine defensively. Vucevic does not protect the rim particularly well. But the three of them together just have so many holes defensively in their game that I think it impacts the rest of the team. And so, and also their skills offensively seem a little bit redundant. Levine and DeRozan are, proficient through the mid range. Vucevic, they've kind of made him a stretch five, and he just hasn't hit the three at a consistent clip. Although I thought he had a great season last year. He was, I think, close to double, and I thought he played pretty well for the most part. But that it all starts with how those three fit together. Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, they kind of doubled down on this group this year. They said they were going to, they were going for continuity. And so they brought them all three back. I re-signed Vucevic, and I wonder how that'll play out. The other thing I'm looking at is whether or not they're going to actually play faster. Like they said, they're going to shoot more threes. The Bulls overall in the preseason were 31st in three-point attempts. And, that sounds wonderful and everything, but they were also pretty low in the league last year. They were actually 30th in attempts last year. And so are they actually going to take more threes, or is that just kind of lip service to make the fans think they're going to change their style? Like I said, they play with a little bit more pace, it seemed like, in the preseason, but we've seen this before from Bulls teams. We've seen them do things in the preseason that didn't translate to the regular season. So are they actually going to play with that kind of pace? Who knows? But we'll have to see if that actually happens. The second thing that I'm watching for this season, will the Bulls be sellers at the trade deadline? So a couple of things. The Bulls have a logjam at guard. Just on this team, you have Kobe White, you have Zach LaVine, you have Javon Carter, you have Alex Caruso, you have Ayo DeSumo that have been playing as a primary ball handler at the guard position. So you got a lot of guards that require playing time and some young guys that need to have that time to develop. So if the season goes sideways, are the Bulls going to look to maybe shake this core up and shake this team up? Will they even look at moving on from Vucevic to DeRozan, who's in the expiring deal, and also Zach LaVine, who they committed a lot of money to? They re-signed Vucevic, but they re-signed him at a very tradable contract. And so if things go sideways, like I said, are they going to possibly sell on some of their core guys? And that kind of goes to the third part of this is what's the long-term vision for them? If they get to the trade deadline and say they're sub 500 and it just doesn't look like things are getting any better, what's the long-term vision for the Bulls? It doesn't seem like they have one right now. It seems like they're trying to make the playoffs, but also develop their guys. And so I don't know what they'll actually do. I don't know what the mindset's going to be. If they consider it a failure, if they come in there sub 500, there's still a lot of holes on this team they haven't really addressed. One of the guys that I look at around the league that is just kind of sitting there and could possibly be a trade candidate toward the deadline is Tyus Jones. I think he would do a lot for the Bulls. They need a traditional point guard that can kind of get the offense set up and kind of structure the team. I think that would be a great piece to put alongside Levine and DeRozan and Vucevic. I think that's why Lonzo Ball was so successful and why we saw such a ceiling on this team, because he was a traditional point guard that would get the offense kind of into motion and kind of minimize some of their bad habits. So we'll see what the Bulls look to do at the trade deadline. If they're going to buy, if they're going to sell, if they're going to go a completely different direction and start a reboot on this team, we'll have to wait and see. And the third and final thing that I'm looking for this season is, will the young guys have opportunities to show improvement? I thought last year was Kobe White's best year, even though the stats were a little lower and he was, I think, below 10 points per game. I thought he was consistent. I thought he showed a lot of promise. I thought he was picking his spots. He played within the flow of the offense, and it wasn't him forcing up shots. And so hopefully that he looks like he's going to have a starting role this year, which I'm not exactly a fan of. I like to see him play alongside a traditional point guard and not have him be the primary facilitator, because I think it takes away it diminishes some of his strengths. But the one thing I want to see from Kobe this year is if he's going to be consistent. Patrick Williams, we talk about Patrick Williams every year. They couldn't come to an agreement on his contract, and will his gamble pay off? Zach Lowe was saying on his podcast that he's expecting 20 plus million per year. And that's ridiculous and absurd for a guy that averages 9 points a game for his career. 9 points, 4 rebounds per game for his career. And he wants almost $30 million. That's crazy. And if I was the Bulls, I'd be right there with them. I wouldn't have offered them that kind of contract either. And if he goes to restricted free agency, um, he may get an offer like that, but the Bulls have the option of matching it and decide if he's going to be worth it. I think there's a ceiling for him that he can reach, but I don't think he's going to reach it alongside Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. I think he's going to have an opportunity to have the ball in his hands more and to be more of a creator. And I just don't know if that's going to ever be the role for him in Chicago. And I think you say similar things about Larry Markkinen. I think it was one of the problems he had here in Chicago, playing aside Zach LaVine and Kobe White at the time, is that he needed the ball in his hands. He needed to be able to create and facilitate and to be that primary focal point. And I don't think Patrick Williams. I don't know if he's good enough to be the focal point on a winning team. I don't know if he'll ever be good enough to be a focal point on a winning team, but I think that's where you'd see his talent get maximized is if he was the guy. And then the third guy I'm thinking about is Ayo Dosunmu. Where does he fit in? We named off a bunch of the guards here a minute ago, and I'm higher on him than most people are. I think he had a kind of a down year last year, but he's going to have opportunities to show his improvement. I think every time he's on the court, he's a positive. He defends well. He plays with energy. He picks his spots. He doesn't require the ball to be effective. And I think on this particular team, he's important. And I think he's going to be a bright part of the future of the Bulls going forward if he has the opportunities. And I just hope he's not one of those guys that they decide to give up on a little early, and then he goes on to a different team and starts to flourish. And we sit there and go, how in the world they missed this? He seems like a perfect candidate for that kind of thing. So those are the three things that I'm watching for the Bulls season. I hope they beat the Thunder tonight. I think the Thunder are going to be a really good team this year. So this is a tough test and opening night at the United Center. But I'll be checking in throughout the season, giving you some opinions and watching what the Bulls are doing. And we'll keep cheering on the big red Bulls here. So we'll see how they do. Hopefully it's looking like playoffs. It's looking like a successful season. But I'm not as optimistic. I just don't think that the Bulls are going to be very good. If I had to give you an official prediction, I think they're a 37-win team. That'd be my guess is a 37-win team. So 37-45. That's my guess is 37 wins. I think they'll miss the playoffs. I think it'll kind of be on that fringe of where the play-in game is. And I think it'll be another frustrating season. I think it'll be a tough watch for us. So I'll be back soon to talk more Chicago Bulls. But until then, hit subscribe, hit like, follow me on social media. I'm at the Bulls Charge on X and also on Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's just at Bulls Charge. So find us on there, and we'll talk to you soon.